boys. Just kidding. Today, you need some tech news? We got it. You need some gaming news? I got you covered, baby. You want some memes? Easy. That's right, PewDiePie memes. Kicking off the video with some PewDiePie memes. I am Papa Joker, and we're going to get into the news today, talking about things like the Epic Store yet again, which someone previously from Valve is actually defending with all of the wrong points, to be perfectly honest. AMD has also announced their second-gen Ryzen Pro mobile processors with Vega graphics, and RTX cards are finally starting to gain some traction over on the Steam hardware surveys, which means more RTX cards are out there in the wild, the jungles of the PC gaming world. But first, today's video is brought to you by LevelGo.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for under $16, Microsoft Office 2016 for $40, and Microsoft Office 2019 Professional Plus for under $80. And if you use my code PTL20 at checkout, you'll get 20% off of Windows 10 Pro, or you can use the code PTL15 to get 15% off of the entire website when you use the links down in the description below. So what is going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, we're going to get things kicked off talking about the Epic Game Store yet again. We've got some comments and tweets from a former Valve developer by the name of Richard Geldrick, who goes by RichGoogle999 on Twitter. I don't know how to say that. Letters, Rich Gel. There you go, that's it. Rich Gel 999 over on Twitter. Former Valve developer has had some words about the Epic Game Store and how it's doing a lot of good for PC gaming, and one of the main reasons he is citing is the fact that it is taking a smaller cut, while Valve was taking a 30% cut, which I don't think any of us were ever arguing was a bad thing. I mean, I think all of us as gamers want to see the developers get supported better. But let's just kind of go through these comments, one at a time, break it down, and, see what kind of points he's trying to make here. So his first comment on here was a reply to someone. He said, Steam was killing PC gaming. It was a 30% tax on an entire industry. It was unsustainable. You have no idea how profitable Steam was for Valve. It was a virtual printing press. It distorted the entire company, and Epic is fixing this for all gamers, which, again, the whole 30% thing, I think every single PC gamer out there wants developers to be supported. We want to see the developers get the largest chunk of the pie that they possibly can, and we can be able to support them so that they can make more of the games that we love. Nobody is saying that. Everyone that is against the Epic Game Store is not against developers making more money. We all want that. Every PC gamer wants developers to make more money. So with that out of the way, the problems are still with the store itself. And of course, there are some people out there that are just like, I don't feel like downloading another launcher, which is also silly. I mean, I think I have like 6 launchers on my system right now, and it's whatever. I'm used to it by this point. But that doesn't take away that it's missing so many features, which I'm not going to go into great detail on every single one of those today. And then there's also a political part of it, because the Epic Game Store has a large percentage of it owned by Tencent, which is a Chinese company, which, if required to, they would have to share user data with the Chinese government. We don't know that they are actually doing that, but it is definitely a possibility. Based on Chinese law, if they were requested to supply that data, if they were in possession of said data, Tencent, then they would have to give that over to the Chinese government. So there is a lot of people that are against that, the same reason people are against Huawei phones, for the very same reason. In his next reply, he goes on to say that he said Steam was first because people are saying, okay, Steam was here before, blah, blah, blah. So what? At the time, Steam's 30% rev share was looking good compared to the 50% revenue share from retail, which is true. When Steam first became available, it was taking a significantly less chunk than something like a standard brick-and-mortar store like GameStop, for example. He goes on to say, now it's ridiculous and oppressive to game developers. Valve became abusive to all of its partners and employees, and it took them for granted. So again, he's going on to continue to complain about the revenue share and things like that, which again, we don't have a problem with. We want developers to get a larger revenue share. But then also the fact that they're doing so much with the exclusive side of things, and it's not really benefiting the consumers at the end of the day, because we're not seeing a price reduction just because Epic is taking a smaller share. Don't you think we should see a price drop on games? Even just 5 or 6 years ago, when Steam started to really kind of pick up traction and become more popular with PC gamers, I mean, it had been around before that, but, you know, Steam was there, and even just 5-6 years ago, if you bought a major AAA title that came out, in most cases, it was going to be $50 on Steam, whereas if you bought it at retail, it was going to be $60. Even back then on Xbox 360, PS3, pretty much for the entire life of those consoles, for AAA titles, it was $60, but if you got games on the PC, they would be around $50 because Steam was taking a smaller cut of the pie. Now, obviously, that has changed, and Steam has gotten greedy again, and now they're charging $60. But why not? But now with Epic taking such a smaller cut, even compared to Steam, I think it is time to see a price cut again. If you're going to be bringing games over there to support these developers and they're getting a larger percentage of it, and you want to entice gamers over to your store other than just supporting the developers more, I think some of that savings should be passed on to us. If the developers are making a bigger cut, then I think maybe we should get a slight reduction in price, not enough to make it so that they're making the exact same thing they were over at Steam, but I think a small price reduction is in order to entice gamers to maybe come over. That's maybe just one idea, my idea. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. He also goes on to say, in regards to the exclusives being taken over there, that he thinks gamers are going to remain mad for a long time, as these exclusives won't stop anytime soon. They could last 1 year or more, and Steam will only be for indie, second-tier, shovelware, and porn. Epic and other launchers for AAA. This seems to be where the market is heading at the moment, and I, for one, don't really care which store ends up winning. I just want to have all of the features that we have now, and then maybe then some. Add some on later after the fact. But the fact that the Epic Store doesn't have the basic functionality that Steam has right now, and some of its key features that I think any storefront should have, which should pretty much be copy and paste, right? I mean, shopping cart, you know, kind of a given before you launch any store of any kind, have a shopping cart. That should be like number one on the list. You know, not just, okay, we can take credit card transactions. Go ahead and push it out now. We can accept credit cards and PayPal. That's all we need. We don't even need a shopping cart. Launch the store right now. Start pulling over big AAA titles so that, you know, you bring people over and then they have a shitty experience and like, I don't want to use this store. Bye. I'll wait 6 months or a year for the game to come out on Steam. That is what's happening right now. That is why people are pissed off. Has nothing to do with the developers getting a bigger cut. We all want that. It has to do with the lack of the features. And then there's also the people out there that really care about the whole Chinese government thing. You know, it's just in the back of a lot of people's minds right now in the political climate. It's a real thing. So yeah, I think a lot of the points that Richard Jeldrich is making here, or Jeldrich, or whatever you want to call it, however you pronounce his last name, I just think he's kind of missing the mark, like a lot of people are right now that are being pro-Epic, is they're talking so much about this developer cut, and yeah, it's not the argument, because nobody is making videos or writing articles saying like, God damn it, I want Steam to be the best because developers shouldn't make money, they don't deserve more money. Literally 0 people have said that in the history of humankind. Nobody has said that, okay? It's bullshit, so your fucking article, I mean, not your article, your statements go out the window and pretty much mean absolutely nothing. Sorry, Richard, or Dick for short. Next up, on a lighter note, AMD has announced their 2nd-gen Ryzen Pro mobile processors, which probably will be launching pretty soon. I'm going to an Acer event actually on this Thursday, so maybe we'll have a chance to get hands-on with them as soon as just a few days from now. I'll keep you guys apprised as any changes come to that, but they have announced 4 new processors in the 2nd gen here. These are going to be on 12 nanometer. This is not 7 nanometer yet on the mobile side of things, but the specs on some of these actually do look pretty darn decent and would probably match up pretty well with what we saw on Vega integrated Ryzen APUs on the desktop. Something like the 3700U, which is 4 cores, 8 threads, and it can clock up to 4 gigahertz, and it's running Vega 10. So it's got 10 compute units, which basically is Vega 10, which we already saw in desktop processors. So I think this could be a pretty compelling, thing, as long as the prices are down on the laptops and stuff like that, and they're not costing you an arm and a leg. Something like that should be able to run a lot of games at 1080p, less demanding titles for sure, lowered settings, things like Overwatch, CSGO, should be able to play games like that absolutely fine. If you're looking to play some more demanding stuff, you might have to drop down to 720p, but usually on laptops like this, they're usually like 13, 15 inches. Dropping down to 720p isn't that big of a deal because you're still getting pretty good pixel density on a screen that's that small, and in my experience, the Vega 10 GPU can actually power 720 and 1080p pretty darn well in the testing I've done so far. They also announced the Ryzen 5 3500U, which will also be 4 cores and 8 threads. That'll only clock up to 3.7 maximum, and it's got 8 compute units on Vega. The Ryzen 3 3300U will be at 3.5 gigahertz max and 6 compute units, and then rounding things off is the 2-core 4-threaded 300U, which will only have 3 compute units. So that's probably not going to be amazing, and probably not be able to play too many games out there, but hey, at least it runs the display. And last but certainly not least, the RTX graphics cards are finally starting to gain some traction over on the Steam hardware survey, basically showing that more and more people are starting to pick these cards up. The gains that they're seeing, actually last month, the RTX 2060, as you can see here, had the largest gain over of any other graphics card for that month, gaining 0.27% of total users over on Steam. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the #1 card right now. It just means that they saw the largest amount of growth in terms of users actually using the RTX 2060. The most used RTX card right now is actually the RTX 2070, and it's kind of far down the list, honestly. If we go over here on the Steam hardware survey for GPU, I'm trying to find it. So right there you go, so you can see the RTX 2070. It's quite a ways down the list, and the top of the list is still the GTX 1060 with 15.5% of the market taking up on Steam users there. Formerly before that, the GTX 970 had pretty much been at the top of the list for almost 2 to 3 years. It was overtaken by the 1060 last year. I believe I did cover that in a news video once that happened. But we've got the 2070 on there right now with still less than 1%. But they're making some good gains, and it could be possible that the 2060 will eventually get towards the top of this list, but right now it's even a little bit further down. We've got the 2080 actually coming in after the 2070 with 0.5% of Steam users, and then the 2060 is all the way down at 0.27%, and then below that we've also got the 2080 Ti with 0.26%, which is actually, I'm kind of surprised to see that many people owning the $1,200 RTX 2080 Ti. I don't believe I've ever seen like a Titan card which sells for over $1,000 in this list here over on here, which is like the top 100 cards here on the first page anyway. So yeah, interesting stuff. RTX is finally starting to gain some traction despite costing probably far too much for most gamers, which is why you still see cards like the 1060 at the top of the list, because you can still find those, and even something like the RX 580, which is up near the top of the list as well. Those have seen quite a few price reductions. You can regularly find those now for $200 to $250. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on all the news stories we covered here today, especially that former Valve employee trying to defend the Epic Store with all of the wrong arguments, because nobody's making any counter arguments to that. Nobody is saying not to support the developers. Nobody's ever said that. We just want basic features, make a good storefront, make something that's actually competitive rather than anti-competitive, and something that's good for the consumer. Because right now, what Epic is doing is only good for Epic and the developers. It's not good for the consumer. Nobody is having a good user experience over on the Epic Store, okay? So I'm going to get out of here. Please leave me your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below as always. Thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it. Thumbs down if you, I don't know, just don't like fat people. Whatever. Or PewDiePie, because I made that meme at the beginning. It's a good possibility there were some thumbs downs for that. So yeah, I'm going to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Ta-ra.